Greetings and welcome to this episode of Everyday Enchantment. I am your host, Stacey and oh my goodness, I have one of my most favorite people on the planet coming in as a guest today. You are going to be delighted by Randi Botnick if you don't already know her. She is a Reiki Sikkim master trained Reiki master. I'm probably going to trip over that. She also is IYT yoga teacher and a clinical hypnotherapist. All of these things which she's done a while ago, but she's really been in the last, I don't know how long she can tell us, but yeah, 2010, been channeling all sorts of galactic groups. I mean, the things that are coming through from Randi are incredible. And so today on the podcast, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about energy medicine and all the shifting that's going on that's really leading us to this heart-centered living that we've been talking about on the podcast, and how it connects to finding our own joy in the world, because joy is such an integral part of all of this. We're going to have a juicy conversation about all of this. Please pull up a seat, pull up your ear, and join us today. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you today, my friend?
Good. Good to be here, Stacey. Thank you so much for inviting me. I can't tell you how pleased I am to be here.
I feel the same way. And is there anything else you want to share, Randi? Because I know I just gave a snippet of your bio. And again, you've been instrumental in my own spiritual journey. You have been a mentor to me. And I know you're a mentor to so many people on this planet through what you channel, what you offer. Just the gifts that you have here are incredible. So if you want to speak any more to that than what I've already shared, we'd love to hear.
Thank you. Yeah. The work that I'm doing now, I call psychic healing. It's, it's like a quantum healing sort of thing where it's movement through your energy field, through the Akashic records and living library of who you are and what you're here to do. It's a lot of clearing of karma and any sort of blocks and things like that. And then a lot of information about where to go from there. So that's sort of the everyday one-on-one work that I do with people. And most recently, I've been doing, like you said, a lot of channeling. The galactics have come to me. The group that's with me now these days is called the Starseed Nation. And their information that comes through is just such beautiful advice and insights around this ascension process and the growth and expansion that the human experience is going through right now, that the planet is going through. And so those are the two focuses that I have these days.
Yeah. And I know for me personally, and I know probably for a lot of other people in your world, it's been bumpy, this transition of going into this ascension, into this, shift that we're doing, the Age of Aquarius. And it really has, at least for me, my physical body has been taking the brunt of a lot of the changes going on. Are you noticing that across the board?
Across the board, for sure. Yeah, I think that, as the energy shifts on the planet, we're seeing a lot of discomfort in the body. It's almost like the physicality needs to catch up with the amount of energy that's raining down on the planet and the amount and changes of vibration that's coming up from the planet. And so, people are uncomfortable. A lot of old issues are arising and coming up, and certainly, of course, the virus that's been around just keeps rearing its ugly head over and over and over again, and so there is a lot of that. And we human beings, it's an interesting time, and then along with that, of course, is everything that we see in the media and how divisive it is. And so our emotions are up as well, and our emotions are very stressful. And
Yeah. And a piece of that to me, at least for me, and again, I can only speak from my experience or people that I've spoken to, is this nervous system. My nervous system seems to be way more on edge. And maybe it's a combination of, right, all these older things kind of coming up and through the physicality of it. And just, I feel like it's taken me extra attention to come back to my nervous system. And I found or finding, and I've been talking about this now for a while, it's like grounding and clearing has never been more important than ever. I mean, always been part of my practice, but it is like I have been picking up other people's illnesses lately or like thing, and I'm like, oh, I don't want this. I need to do some more clearing and grounding.
Yeah, no kidding. And again, I'm seeing that across the board. I really see that it's almost like the nervous system, which is always plugged into the planet, is now finding that there's all these glitches in the system. And I feel like we have to reboot our nervous systems in a brand new way. And we're all learning that at the point. We're all learning it. I can't say exactly what it is, and maybe it's slightly different for everybody, but nervous system is the primary place where people are working at this point.
That makes so much sense to me, at least with my own experience. And it's interesting. So I'm curious, as you've been channeling lately, what is the Starseed Nation? What are they offering to all of us in terms of guidance and support? Because it's what I've loved, because I am a member of this community of yours and have access to these messages. It's very loving and supportive. So as much as you go out into the world and you get scared and you're right, your nervous system's all dysregulated, and then I come back and I read something that's coming through your channels, and I feel like it's like the best long exhale. I need to like come back to them over and over again as remembering there's something else out there besides what the world is offering.
Yeah. Thank you. That's a beautiful way of saying it. And I agree. I have to say that I am calmer by hearing their messages every week as well. And, they talked about a few things. One is this heart opening, this heart expansion that we're going through, which is actually the unified heart chakra, meaning that our 7 chakra system is sort of melding into one big heart, and that's going to bring us into a clearer understanding of our oneness. And what our oneness means is that every single person on the planet, no matter what they're acting out, no matter how they are acting out, they are souls and spirit that have come to live out their experience, and that this needs to be seen in the most non-judgmental way as possible, right? So that's one of the things they keep reminding us of, is don't get caught up in the stories and the divisiveness and the enemy patterning. Stay very focused on your heart and what you know to be true about yourself, and extend that out to everybody else. Then the next thing they talk about is joy and finding our joy, and that this is a time when we're going to be shifting into, well, let me start by saying we're going to be shifting out of these preconceived notions about what we're supposed to do, how we're supposed to make a living, how we're supposed to conduct our lives, and move into this very individualized perspectives and decisions about how we want to spend our time, how we want to spend our day, and who we want to show up as. And so this is just so important for us all, is to connect to that sense of joy and purpose within each one of us, and then begin to express that out. Right?
Oh,
so this, I love that. Yeah. Those are 2 really primary examples of what they're talking about. And then there's also a lot of information about our connection to nature, and the fact that we are an integral part of the planet, and everything else on the planet is an integral part of our lives. And really beginning to create that connection, if you haven't already, and taking it very seriously.
You know, it's interesting because I channeled something in my newsletter a couple of weeks ago, and it was about the ecosystem of, you know, the planet. And I think a lot of us, or maybe we were kind of taught this, or like that we're separate. We're somehow separate. There's this division, right, between us and the earth and the animals and what have you. We're better or higher, some hierarchy, right, belief system. And what I keep getting, and I mean, everything you spoke to is everything that I have been feeling for years, right? This ease and joy and coming into our own sovereignty is part of that to me, right? So instead of this collective, like, here's the paradigm that you need to do and you should be doing in order to create better, you don't even love that word, but this new ecosystem, right, where we're all really living from that place, we have to claim our sovereignty as part of, I don't know if it's foundational or, you know, maybe it doesn't matter how I'm articulating it, but the sovereignty is an important piece. It's like, what is actually important to you in terms of what you want to do, how you want to do it. And joy always seemed like an aftermath, right? Pleasure and joy and fun. You know, I don't know how old I was where it's like, all right, get serious, you're an adult now. That was for kids. And now, you know, you're not meant to prioritize that. And yet it has made humans very, very unhappy and very almost at dis-ease, right, with themselves and the world around us. So I love this, like, coming back in, because it doesn't have to be complicated either. And I think there's a lot of spiritual voices out there that are trying to make it this big, complicated, I don't even know, struggle mountain that we have to go through. And what I love about a lot of what I'm hearing coming through you and what I'm hearing coming through me is like, no, let it be easier. It doesn't it doesn't have to be another big, you know, struggle, challenge, what have you, in order to connect to these energies.
Yes. So what's coming to me while you're talking about this, which is, of course, this whole, you know, puritanical ethic that we, at least in this country, have lived with. You know, this is very much about this 40-hour a week working, and the kind of money that you're supposed to be making, and who gets to make the money and who doesn't, you know, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Is that maybe the nervous system right now is rebooting to help us get deeper and deeper and deeper into our own joy. And that what's happening is this anxiety that we're feeling is the disconnect. And I don't even think we really know how to connect that deeply in yet. I think that is part of the feminine energy that's coming back, which we don't quite have access to yet. We hear about it. We know certain feminine energy practices. We know them as different than the masculine, the old masculine practices, but we don't really, I just get the sense we don't really know how to connect deeply into the feminine yet. And that as we do more of that, our nervous systems are going to calm down. But I think what they're telling us now, they're trying to give us a message of like, no, you're not quite there yet. You're not quite there yet.
I like that, because I think we also all want to be there. I know for me, sometimes like, when am I going to be there? Because the anxiety, the discomfort, all of it, it just feels kind of ambiguous and kind of, I feel a little bit better. And then I feel like maybe I took 3 steps sideways again. And what I've been learning in my own journey with all of this is the present moment, right? What do I most need in this moment? Because what I needed yesterday, what I needed 3 hours ago, how I felt it's like, it doesn't matter. It's like, in this very, very real moment here, what is it that's true? What do you need? And how can you best serve your physical body, your spiritual body, you know, all the bodies that we have that are constantly in flux around us.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even know what to add to that. That's just perfect. You know, that's exactly right. And the other thing that that the Starseed Nation keeps reminding us is that, we have to be willing to let the past go. We've all done a lot of healing, I hope. And those of us who haven't still want to do the healing, right? It's not so much that it's just like, oh, yeah, you've been traumatized and abused. Don't worry about it. Just forget about it. We're not doing that, right? But what we are doing is we're saying at some point, we need to bring ourselves fully into the present moment and say, yes, those things happened. I want to honor that. I want to honor the pain, but I am not taking that further with me into my future. I don't even want to take it into my today, And so as we stay very present to what's in front of us, that's where like the magic happens and the miracles happen. They don't happen as we're carrying this like heavy burden with us. And they don't happen by merely projecting out into what we hope we'll have someday. It's all right here. And that the more present we are, the more guided we are to those miracles.
Yes. And like all the yeses to that, it's interesting. I asked my guides, or maybe they just kind of show me kind of through visions, and they were trying to explain it to me, what you said, which you articulated so well, but they were basically saying you're getting divorced from the past. It's not that it hasn't happened to you, right? When you get divorced, you still have that. However you're in relationship with it, you cannot keep, like they were saying to me, you cannot keep writing, because I've talked a lot about my divorce, I've talked a lot about my childhood trauma. It's not that those things haven't happened, but you cannot keep being in that same energy of being in all of that and be in wherever it is that, this shift that we're also on the precipice of experiencing. It was like, so they were saying to me, it's like a divorce. You bless it and love it, but you're not going to carry it. I love how you said that, forward. And if you do, I find that that's when I feel the worst, right? When I'm still in all of like the old things start popping up. It's like, I don't feel well anymore. It's almost like if you ate something that you used to love, right? I don't know why, but banana pudding, which I've never liked banana pudding, but if you ate banana pudding all your life and one day you took a bite, you're like, this does not taste right anymore.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. And then, but I think, and tell me what you think about this, Randi, but I think what happens is, because we have these brains and what have you, we want to know what do I like? What is the thing? And we're in this period, as you're saying, that we're not quite all the way acclimated here. So there is this kind of like, I don't know, soft kind of, whatever you want to call it, transition, which is not always soft, but this just like murkiness. And at least I find sometimes this desire to be like, I need clarity, rather than trust this idea of like, you can be in this and it can be okay. You don't, right? That pattern or that desire of like, I need to know and I need the plan is also what doesn't taste good anymore. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah. And as you're saying that, I'm thinking, yeah, well, of course, and it mimics our old trauma, right? So here we are trying to divorce from trauma, and we're in this experience that in a way feels the same. It feels like, what have I done wrong? Right. And I have a lot of people saying that to me, like, what's happening? Why is this happening to me? And it's like exactly what you said. We're in this transition phase in between who we were and the sort of whole self that we're becoming. I don't even want to say supposed to be, but we are actually becoming that whole self. And in the transition, there's just so much to be learned, and that can only be learned by staying very non-judgmental about what every moment brings.
Yeah.
And even as I say this, I know certainly I'm not the queen bee of that at all, but we're all trying, right? We're trying to get to this place where I'm like, yeah, I'm having an uncomfortable day. I'm just going to be gentle with myself today. It's going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to do what I can do to take care of myself, and that'll be about it.
Yeah.
But that's part of tapping in, right, to that place where, like, what if that's really okay? That I have a non-productive, quiet, wanting to stay near my bed day. And it doesn't have to be this masculine vision of what the day is supposed to look like, right?
Yeah, totally. And I think it was funny. I was talking to a friend, I don't know, about a month ago about this. There's never been a place where it's acceptable, unless you have a serious illness, to allow yourself, right? Just some downtime, some resting, right? It's run so counter to the culture and to everything. And there's nothing that says, you know, this idea of sabbatical, right? Like I know somebody who takes sabbatical. It's like, it's almost unheard of. It's like, what do you mean you're taking a sabbatical just to just kind of go off the grid? And I've been practicing that, the last couple of years. I keep having these kind of like opportunities that present themselves. And that can be, to me, some of the most uncomfortable parts of it is kind of railing against this belief that you need to be productive, or this is what is productive and this is not. Where, how the hell do we, excuse my French, but how do we know what if this honoring and being in this non-judgmental space and just being in a quieter place is what, like, that is, I don't know, do we need the word productivity, but it is the same level of energy. It just looks a lot different.
Yeah, right. The internal gestation is so rich, right? So I'm remembering all the books about the dark night of the soul, right? And so the dark night of the soul is a depression, and but it's also fodder for an incredible next level of creativity. And it's just the shift. Well, what if we can do the shift without the depression? What if we can allow ourselves to move through a transition experience, an expansion, a change, without having to be or to name it as being something sad or negative or dark.
It goes to like a saying, like, no pain, no gain, right? Like, I think for so long, even in my own spiritual awakenings and awarenesses, it's like, oh, I have to go through this painful night of the soul in order to get. And my guides have been saying the last couple of years, no. I mean, yes, you've done that, but no, you don't have to continue to be in that same model. Let's break you out of this so it can be a lot more. Again, ease keeps coming through for me too with joy. It's like, how can it be easier? Which feels like, again, oh, does that feel safe? Going back to nervous system, does it feel safe for it to be led by joy and ease and no judgment? My nervous system sometimes, like, I don't know about this.
And God, what would people think? Like, am I allowed to be that happy? Like, is that okay? What will everybody else think? What will my family say if I'm actually really happy? That's another thing that shows up for a lot of people, I think.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So I have a question for you, but I don't want to interrupt you.
I'd love to hear your question.
So for everybody listening that's saying, okay, yes, I'm sure they're like, yeah, right. And how have you been offering, or what maybe the Starseed Nation is, but also offering ideas? How is it best? We kind of talk about like taking a day where you just kind of like simplify your day. What other practices are you finding supportive while we're in this transition? Have you noticed any trends or things that are working well for yourself or clients?
Yes. So people have talked about gratitude journals for years and years, and I have to say that I was never someone who thought that something that easy would really make a difference. And I started doing gratitude, like, I just write 5 of them every morning. I just sit down and write 5 gratitudes, and then what I do next is I write a fantasy about my future. It could be called a future activation. It can be called, a future visualization. But I write down just a short story about something that would be incredibly pleasing to me it can be about anything, work or your animals or your family or your house or whatever, you want to write about that particular day. And those two really simple practices, which might take 15 minutes, sets me on a really high vibration for the rest of the day. It sets me feeling like, yeah, everything's really good. Everything's really good. And that shift of vibration is enough to start everything else changing in your life. So
I love that.
Minutes, just dedicate that in the morning. It, again, doesn't have to be hard and doesn't have to be a really huge deal, but it's something where you give to yourself this knowing that there's a lot of positivity already in your life.
Yeah, and it's focusing your attention and intentions around that energy, which I think we tend to be wired the other way. And so it's like a rewiring or reset, like you're mentioning. A couple of years ago, I read a book by Pam Grout. It was called Think and Grow Rich. It was a play on, I can't think of the guy's name, but he wrote it a long time ago. Think and Grow Rich. And anyway, one of the things that I pulled from that, because I've been kind of I mean, I have lots of gratitude, but the journal thing, I'm like, like the jar, I've tried all the things and never stuck. So she came up with this. Well, she was saying, again, she was on this precipice. Things weren't going the way she wanted in her life. And so what was, she made two simple changes. And she got up every morning and she said, something amazing is going to happen to me today, which is a little bit on like an abbreviated version of your ideal, what I would call ideal day, or creating out in the imaginary field of all possibility, form, and all that fun stuff, right? There's something there that you already know. It's like my favorite Rumi quote, live life like it's rigged in your favor, right? So coming from that space. And then she would say, I would come up with just 3 things, right, that I was grateful for. What I ended up doing with my husband is we texted, and we kind of got out of this habit. I want to do something similar to this, but we would text each other every morning. So there was like a little bit of accountability there, which always helps me. And it was like, something amazing is going to happen today. And when we would say that, there were days where it was like, wow, there were some amazing things that happened. Not that if you don't say it, nothing happens. However, we found that when we focused on that, right, you set, like you said, you set this vibration. And then we would just say 3 things. And it was like, you couldn't just say, I said to him, you can't just say, oh, I'm thankful for you every day. Then it has to be something kind of concrete within the last 24 hours. I found that practice to be easy, like you said, to do. I like the accountability of sending it to him. You could send it to a friend. You could write it in a journal. It doesn't have to go somewhere. But I love the idea of stripping it down so that and anchoring it in, that we did that in the morning, because there's something to me always about the bookends of the day, the beginning and the end of the day, in terms of how we honor them and how we bring our focus in on both sides.
I end every day with, I'm lying in bed and I ask myself, what do I want to dream about tonight? And I come up with, again, it's almost like a future visualization. It's like, I really want to dream about how happy I'm going to be when this occurs in my life, and like what it's going to feel like to, move into a much bigger house, or anything that it is for me. And honestly, I don't ever dream about them, but I go to sleep with that vibration of, again, identifying these things that bring me joy, that raise my vibration. And those are really important times, in hypnotherapy. Those times right between waking and sleep are the most powerful times in your day. So whether it's before you get out of bed or right before you fall asleep at night, to instill in yourself something positive is really probably the most powerful thing you can do for yourself.
I love that. I love that. And I know you nor I are advocating bypassing when we have things going on with ourselves, but very much creating a practice, to me, creating a practice, because otherwise I think if you're kind of untethered and you're just letting the day happen to you, then you're much more at the whim of whatever other energies are out there versus like, I want to really be a channel of my own frequency as best that I can.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, emotions go where they go during the day, and that's a given for a human being. There's no getting around that. But it's like you said, it's like this decision: am I going to allow that to be my primary reality, or am I going to take some control over my primary reality?
Yeah.
And we all do the best we can on any given day, certainly. I mean, and that's just realistic.
Yeah, I absolutely. And I've found that a lot of my practices that I've been doing for years and years is like in the last 6 months, it's like, nope. Like, nope, doesn't feel good, whatever. It's like my banana pudding of spiritual practice, like, no. And so again, just being open. I love this, keeping things simple and being open to whatever it is in this moment. If you've always been a meditator, you've always been a yoga practicer, and whatever the case may be, those things, they're not necessarily you can't do or they're going away, but it just feels like everything is shifting. And so can we be really, really open to that and keep this kind of, again, these anchors. And I love it. I always say, you're right. And I maybe didn't say it exactly that about, well, the veil is thin, right? The vibration when you're in the waking and the sleeping hours, there's something kind of magical that ensues in the energy of just those times of day.
Yeah. Most important part for your brain.
Yes. I could talk to you for hours, as everybody on the planet knows, as I know you know, because this is so juicy. However, I know people can they can get into your world. But before we get into like where people can kind of come closer to you and find out, again, how to access all of this beautiful stuff that you're channeling, I try to think about what's the one thing from our conversation today that people could kind of take with them, right? So if you listened to all this and it was beautiful, but if you just wanted to take one piece, what would you take with you today from everything we've talked about? What do you think?
I think I would take the fact that, and the message that we are complicated beings going through a complicated process. And the more we can do that without having to identify it as a problem, the better off we're going to be, and the more we're going to be able to enjoy the changes that do come and the opportunities on a daily basis to do something differently.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. So if you're not in Randi's world already, you probably want to take a step. You want to take a step in if they want to know about all the things, because Randi, you're collaborating with other people, you're channeling, you're offering. I know I've been doing this series that you've been offering online. You have lots of beautiful supportive things, and the one-on-one, which I also take advantage of. The healing sessions are incredible. How do they get connected? What's the first step?
I think the best thing to do is go to my website, which is my name, randibotnick.com.
And we will have that in the notes. Yep.
And there's links to all of that on my website. There are events, there are the sessions and calendar and everything like that. There's also the ability to subscribe to my mailing list, which will keep you updated and free. No obligation to anything, by the way, on the mailing list. But it will keep you updated on everything that's going on and all the new things that I'm going to be offering in 2024, because there's a lot more coming.
Oh, I feel that. I feel that for me. I feel that for you. I'm excited. Let us be like, again, let us find the excitement and the joy and all these things that do want to come through here on the planet. So thank you for being such a beautiful reminder today of that. As always, just even your energy offers such a gift. I feel so much more grounded just being in your presence for 30 some minutes. So thank you for that gift as well.
You too. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for tuning in. Get all the delicious details and links we've mentioned in this episode in the show notes below. If you'd like to chat about this episode or learn more about how to work with me, Come visit me in my private Facebook group, Everyday Enchantment, or check out my website, staceyandin.com, where you can find out more about my Leap of Faith coaching, my Map Makers group program, and the School of Intuitive Magic. Plus a special shout out for all the production and editing of this show by Richard Wilmore. That's it for now, love. Here's to living a life enchanted. See you soon.